One. Cool. We're live. Sorry, there's a delay going on. Welcome officially. It's been weird. We've been in the lobby for about, I don't know, 10 minutes, and there's now 20-ish, 30-ish people. Cool. Signed up from our Eventbrite account. So this wasn't like a public event, even though it is through YouTube itself. We just wanted to make sure it wasn't just like thousands of random people sending in whatever. Just becoming like a weird place of the internet. So welcome. My name's Sean. If you don't know anything about me, cool. I don't expect you to, but I am currently the head of design Wiretap. We sort of monitor, analyze, and give big companies visibility into social platforms that employees use, like Slack, Yammer, Microsoft Teams, things of that nature. And then we do like behavioral analytics and monitoring on that aspect. So for that, I help with the product side, but lately I've been doing lots of marketing materials and assets and websites, and just the list goes on and on. And I got started with Columbus Web Group, I think about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was the reason why I actually got all the jobs I've ever had in like the UX design, web sphere or careers. Before that, I went to OSU and I got a major in, I forget about it. What was my major? It was new media and communication technology with the emphasis on human-computer interaction, which is a mouthful, but really just means UX. And in there, I think I maybe had one design course, but it was like a basic like intro to Photoshop. And I actually had like a cracked version of Photoshop since like, I don't know, middle school. And I actually used that throughout my whole college career and my first job out of college. I just had like Photoshop like CS2 or CS3. So I really knew how to like push that one tool to its limits. Which I mean, I did things in there that you probably shouldn't do in there. But it made me sort of learn lots of like hacky workarounds to get what I wanted. And since my degree wasn't like in design exactly, but more like, again, user experience, how people interact with computers, it was more the psychology based and human behavior around things. So with Columbus Web Group, I got into more of real design stuff and actual development. And usually whatever team I was on, I was roughly the only designer. And then I had to then implement the designs as well. So I have like a unique thing where I design stuff in Sketch, but then I have to then take that and implement it in actual code. So it's a nice way to sort of look at things. So I'll have a different perspective than from the people that are attending, because I looked through all the responses that you sent over. And these have no names attached to them. But these are the things that people wanted to learn. This is on my screen. Sorry about that, Kevin. And these were the... And some of you had some experience with Sketch. Might be a little bit. Some, like I think Tom, hey Tom, I think you had like the most experience out of Sketch. And lots of other people had like great experience in Illustrator or InDesign or Photoshop, which is great. And I'll try to make sure that I translate some of the concepts that are within Sketch to those other platforms, trying to like bridge the terminology especially. And so as you can see in the workshop questions here, well, these aren't questions, these are more answers from you. So learning something new, how to do mock-ups for multiple pages of a website, responsive design, how do you make sure that whatever you have there, you can scale it easily within Sketch itself, which it can do, which is good, along with how to keep things consistent with text styles and symbols. And I didn't see anyone mention this, but we'll get into it a bit, is Sketch libraries, which is especially useful if you are working with more than one person or more than just yourself. With that, you can have a shared resource that everyone has. So it's like one source of truth where if you update a symbol there, everyone that has that shared library gets an update about that, which is really cool. I'll also go over like some other tools in this field that are comparable to Sketch. And some of them are better at some things and not as good as others. I'm not like married to Sketch itself. I won't be up here like defending it, but I'll say what is good for it, what it's not that great for. And honestly, one of the apps that you should probably look into, just because there are so many design tools out there now, which is great. It makes it really hard to pick one. Is this thing called Framer X or 10. I don't know how they want to pronounce that X. But it is coming out. You have to sign up for a beta, and I'll give that link to Alex. So Alex in back here in front of me is going to be tweeting out links that I share or resources that I mention through the Columbus Twitter account. So if you don't have a Twitter, it's okay. You can still go to the Twitter website. It is CBus Web Group, all one word because you can't really have spaces in there. So CBus Web Group, and it'll be a collection of links. And then afterwards, we'll send out the whole list of links as well, including the video playback of this workshop. So if, for whatever reason, you woke up this Saturday morning, you joined this webcast, great, and then you're like, crap, I have to go get brunch. I forgot I made plans. It's okay. You can leave. No hard feelings. Watch this later. And I do answer I do answer literally every Sketch question that's been coming across Twitter for the past month. So I have this app called Tweetbot. I do lots of other stuff for work, as you can see, like Microsoft Teams, Workplace by Facebook, things like that. But yeah, for Sketch, I have been scouring every tweet about Sketch, liking lots of them, replying to tons of them, recording videos of how to answer that question. So if worse comes to worse, you can always do that, and I will probably see it way before the people that actually work at Sketch respond to you, which I feel like they should pay me, but they aren't. There is also another place, before we get too deep into actual like Sketch world, is Stack Exchange. So I'll send this link to Alex. Boom. So Stack Exchange is a huge collection. Well, it's like a platform of just Q&A forum style stuff. And there are different exchanges, I don't know their exact terminology, of interests of how you can ask questions. There is one for graphic design specifically. There are ones for like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, React. You name it, there is probably one about it. Even like grammar, there is a grammar Stack Exchange, and it gets a little bit, I mean, if you like that, it's cool. It's just like people get into really hardcore debates over syntax, which I don't know, I find funny. I mean, if you find it funny. So yeah, so with here, you can then ask a question, throw in a title. And this is a bit more detailed than just throwing it out on Twitter, because you can have lots of images, lots of texts, videos, GIFs, however you pronounce it. And there's a lot of knowledgeable people here, not just about Sketch, but as you can see, just Photoshop, Illustrator, even just general design questions like, hey, can I get some, not exactly feedback, but like what you would do to improve this, or like, can this be done in Sketch or Photoshop, or how do I translate this from what I have now to like production, or I have to do this for print and I've never dealt with like bleeds and margins and things like that. So 2 good resources to just like throw out your questions. Hopefully some kind of resource will help you through it. Awesome. So that's a little bit about me, how to get help, and covering a little bit of what we're going to be doing here with all of what you want to get out of here. So before we start, are there any
like,
questions?
No issues, tech issues?
Yeah, no technical issues. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me. I'm just not a chatting head. We cool? Cool. Alrighty. Well, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. So to start it off, it's nice to come. I read this book one time, and I always reference it at the beginning of any, I don't know, presentation or like workshop I ever do, because I just feel like it makes sense. It's this book called How to Read a Book. It's not like a kid's book. It's literally like, how do you get the most like information, or like what you want to get out of a book or a topic, and just to do it in a smart way and not a dumb way. And one of the first, yeah, no, it's crazy. Like, let's say if you want to learn about the Civil War, you could just pick up one book about the Civil War, read it, pick up another book about the Civil War, read that through. But if you want to get like a new perspective, and there's different levels of reading, and if you want to get the most out of it, or at least come away with a different perspective than just what people would normally have, it would be to actually get like 5 books at once, or like 6 books of like the definitive Civil War books, and then making sure that, hey, I'm going to go to this time period, like let's say the beginning of the Civil War, or like right before it. You then open all 5 books, so you have to have a big table, and then you just read like maybe a page or 2 at a time from each book. And you probably look like a madman or madwoman or mad person, and you get like a different perspective, because then you have all of these 5 different writers or authors giving you their retelling of what happened, and then you can form your own opinion on what that is. So going along with this one workshop should not probably be the definitive like Bible. I might say things wrong, hopefully I don't. But there are tons of other sketch resources that I will also share out afterwards, just so you can see how other people do the same thing, because there are like 20 different ways to accomplish the one like a certain design. Along with that book, there is this thing called Coming to Terms, and that's just making sure like when I say something, you know what I mean. So to do that first is the layout of the actual sketch program itself. So I'm going to close this out real quick. We'll start fresh. Oh my, I have so many windows open.
I'm not sharing it.
Okay, that's all right. You can. There's nothing really crazy going on. Now you can share it if you like. So when you first start Sketch, assuming that you've just installed it, and if you haven't installed it and you want to actually play around with it, if you go to Sketch's website, you can download a free trial. As soon as you start opening it, or as soon as you open it, you have 30 days from that moment in time to use it for free. After that point in time, you do have to pay $99. If you're a student, I think it's like $50. You just got to email them like, hey, I'm a student, brah. And then from that point in time, you have Sketch forever, which is sort of cool. You only have updates though for a year. So it's a perpetual license. You just won't get any new updates after 1 year from when you give them money, which is cool. The one caveat is if you have an older version of Sketch. If you notice right now, I have Sketch version 50.2. That means I can open any Sketch file from 50 and below. They're pretty good at releasing a new Sketch application every month or so. So probably in July, there'll be Sketch 51. And from there, I cannot, as a Sketch 50 user, open a Sketch 51 file unless I upgrade. And I can only upgrade if I have a license, or like an active license. There is, though, a hack, and hopefully you can still do this as long as you want. And this is going to get into plugins, which we'll cover a little bit, and we can go as deep as you want, because I know a hell of a lot of plugins that can just help you do things so much faster and quicker. But there is one called, I think, Automate Sketch. And we can get into how to download this and how to install it and how to use it later. Just know that there is a thing within Automate Sketch that you can convert a sketch file to another version. So if you are on 50 and someone gives you a 55 file and you don't want to pay $100, or you're like, hey, I'm just going to ride this out until I have to, you can then do this and you can open a higher version or go to a lower version, which is awesome. Sweet. There is also, if you are working with someone on a Windows machine, there's a thing called Lunacy by Icons8. And I'll send these links over to Alex. And it is a free sketch viewer. You can do some things, but I wouldn't trust it like all the way. But if you really had to open a sketch file and you don't have a Mac on hand, this is one way to do it. Cool. Yeah.
Somebody wants to know if you would recommend Sketch for like a quick animation video.
Ooh. So yeah, the question is if I'd recommend Sketch for quick animation video. That depends on a lot of factors. So follow up for that person. Who is it, by the way?
This is
Carmela? Carmela? Okay.
We can hear you like.
Yeah. Cool. Yes. Just wondering, like, what kind of animation software do they use?
Wants to be called Babu.
Babu. Cool. Is there any like animation software that you use right now, like After Effects or Motion or Hype, or there's probably a lot more out there? Because the answer is yes. You just have to have lots of plugins or ways to export stuff out of Sketch.
Have you used Maya before?
Maya? That I don't think so. I can follow up on that later. And I'm gonna write this down so I don't forget. But Maya is, I don't think so. I know there is like a After Effects, Sketch to After Effects plugin that someone's made to make that gap like non-existent. It's a pretty cut and dry thing. But I can look into Maya. Cool.
If you have a moment to search that too. What was that?
Alrighty. So I feel like lots of the boilerplate pretty well set. If you have any more questions, keep on typing them in the chat. We'll answer them as soon as we get past like the intro to like the layout of Sketch. So here it is. I have like open up Sketch. This is like creating like a new document. On the left hand side, crazy enough, their newsletter is really good. I recommend signing up to it. They only email you once a month, so you're not going to get spammed, and they have tons of good links and resources in there, crazy enough. And Sketch Mirror is a program that you can download for your iPad and or iPhone, and it allows you to mirror whatever you have on your screen. So if you're developing an iOS app particularly, or if you're just designing a website and you want to make sure that it looks good on a mobile device, and you don't want to just like look on your computer screen and be like, yeah, I think that's good. I have the width of a phone, but it's really hard to tell unless you have like your actual hands, your grubbly little animal hands on these things, and see where it doesn't make sense. So with Sketch Mirror, I'm not going to demo it today because I have had lots of problems, and lots of other people have been having lots of problems since this latest update, and it's just like, it's really like rolling the dice if it's going to work or not. So we just won't do that. But you can imagine what it would be like. You do something on your computer, it shows up on your phone, you can interact with it, go up and down, and there is even like prototyping capabilities now in Sketch itself. So you can do hotspots, go back and forth, and pretend like you have a functioning app or a website. Cool. So from here, I have lots of recent Sketch files that I've been working with. And then templates are nice if you want to start not with a blank canvas, such as you want to do an icon, hey Kevin, do something like GUI, material design, web design, and I have one for internally at Wiretap Sketch Library, which is the shared resource where multiple designers can have this one thing. That's the one source of truth. If updates there, updates everywhere. Cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open this workshop file I had real quick. So Sketch is a little bit like Illustrator in the sense there is an infinite canvas. So right here in the middle of everything, if you notice with these three hellos, I can then scroll up and down, left, right, wherever I want. It's not going to stop me, which I really like. Just because when I have a project, I like to have multiple versions of the same design. If I do like tweaks or like, I don't want to delete this, but I want to keep it along as long as possible, because then I can see my design decisions and like the progression of that. So that's what this middle part is, the canvas. And you might not have this ruler right now. I have that just turned on for myself. So I'm just going to turn this off to make it match probably what you have right now. So canvas, ruler. Sweet. So that's the canvas. Up top here is the toolbar. You can customize this. Mine definitely looks 100% different than yours. To customize it, you can right click anywhere where there isn't an icon. If you don't have right click set up, I think it's like you hold down Control and click. I know some people don't like the fact that you have a right click on a mouse, or on a trackpad it's usually 2 fingers. And from there you can customize the toolbar, and then you'll have all the things you can do from the toolbar. This isn't actually everything you can do within the program itself, it's just like the most commonly used functions and features. So if you really wanted to, I can bring in colors, and I grab it and drag and drop it wherever I'd like up here in the toolbar. And if I don't like something, because I don't actually use colors here, I usually use the shortcut key, I'll take it out. And it's easy as that. And I do like icon and text a little bit more because 2 things. Sometimes I don't know what some of these mean. And also, with the text being there, the icon is actually bigger, so it's easier to click. Just a quick hack. And if you really want to, you can just, if you really made a bungle of everything, you can just set the default toolbar back up here and it'll undo any mess that you made. Cool. So that's the toolbar. We'll get into some of these things a little bit later. But for now, on the left-hand side is how all your files, or how all your objects within the page, within the sketch file, or how you can access them, how they're organized. And they're split up into, I'm going to say like 3.5 parts. The first are pages. So if you notice right now, I have page 1 and symbols. Sometimes this is up here like that. And if you notice, I can drag this to be as big or small as I want. So right now I have like 1 page, and I can come over here and go to the other one, or if I hit this, it'll expand it up, and that gives me the option to then add more pages from here. So I usually use pages to do, let's say, different pages of a website. So if you do, let's say, 1 page is like home page, 1 page is the contact page, 1 is the press release page, 1 is blah, 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 blah. Just a way to organize it. And then symbols, we'll get into a little bit, well, actually a lot of it. And this is the one place they all live. So if you have a symbol here, if you notice, I was messing around a little bit earlier. This is called sassy. I'm just going to start typing something real quick. I don't know how to type, as you can see. Hello. And I don't have anything here, but we will get to that a little bit later. And I'll put that symbol here in the canvas. But just know that I edited the symbol over here. The next part is the actual contents of the page itself. And I have this page 1, if you notice it matches that page. And I have these 3 artboards. So artboards are a way to contain stuff. The best way to think about it is, let's say if you have a page, I can create a new artboard right over here. I'm going to go up here to Artboard. If you don't have that icon, there is Insert, and this has like literally anything you can insert. And then I'll click on Artboard. Before I do that, though, I'm going to try not to use the shortcut keys very much in the beginning. But when I do the Q&A, I probably will do it a little bit more just so I can get through those faster for you and just answer as many questions as possible. But the shortcut keys are right on the right-hand side. So A, if I click that, or on my keyboard, I then get the Artboard. And from here, I have this crosshair. And then if you notice on the right-hand side, that changed. So the right-hand side is contextual, and it's the inspector for whatever you're doing. So right now, since I'm in essentially using the Artboard tool, I'm in Artboard mode. And from here, I can drag and create my own artboard to whatever size and dimensions that I'd like. So if I knew if it was going to be a web page, I could be like, hey, I'm going to start off the wide view, or I'm actually going to start mobile first. If you notice, I'm trying to get this like 320 right there. And then if you notice, the right-hand side has now changed back to like what it was originally. So with artboards, anything that you have within the artboard is contained there, and anything that overflows it is not shown. So real quick, I'm going to create a rectangle. I pressed R, sorry. Old habits die hard. So I have this, and then if you notice, I can move this over here, and then it doesn't show on this right-hand side, even though it is actually that wide. And we'll get into artboards a lot more in depth a little bit later. So with these artboards, you can move them around, and you can name them whenever you want. So if you want to go over here, you can double-click it and be like, hey, page, and then press enter. And then you organize just your stuff. And then from here, there is the filter, which is essentially search. So if I wanted to find hello, I can start typing hello, and it finds all the layers that have the name hello, or artboards that would have hello in it. So if I think I do page, it only shows this one page, which is nice. Cool. So that's how you like find things. And if you notice these artboards over here, there's hello and then a rectangle. You can then organize them by dragging them, dropping them on top of each other. The thing on the top of the list is the thing that will be higher up, the most elevation, or Z index if you're used to web development terms. And then on the right-hand side, this is where you're going to do most of your life, spend most of your life in, because that's where everything is like manipulated. So if you notice, once I have nothing clicked, it has really nothing there. Position size, everything's blank. But as soon as I click something, it changes. And this is for an object. So right now this is a rectangle, and I can choose the position, height, width, rotate it. And if I move it on the canvas, it updates over there. Or if I knew I want to do something over here, I can do just delete this and do 60. Or you can actually do math, which I like to do because sometimes I can't just do basic addition, subtraction, multiplication in my head. So if I want to divide this by 3, I can. If I want to add 4, that's sort of sad. If you don't know how to add 4 to a number, I don't know what to tell you, man. So you can do that, and then you can, again, times. Oh, I really messed that up. So you can do all that. And we'll get into more of this a little bit later as well. But it is a bit different compared to artboards. As you can see right now that I have an artboard selected, I can't like do all of that. I can change where it is and what the size is. But I can change it to something that has already been set, like a preset. So these are Apple devices. I can change it to an Android or responsive web, paper sizes, custom, which is really nice because then you don't have to like remember the dimensions of anything. And since this is an infinite canvas, you can have, again, as many artboards as you want. One thing to note, though, is like roughly when you get to like 100 artboards in a page, it gets a little bit slow. So you can create multiple pages, and it really only renders what's ever on that current page that you're on. So if you have some really complex, crazy stuff, just create another page and you're sort of good to go. Cool. So that is the lay of the land. Just wondering, are there any questions or anything like that so far? Sweet, sweet, sweet. So I'm going to look back at what people wanted to get out of this, because I can go anywhere. I know where I want to go, but, you know, good to know who's watching, what they want. Plugins, symbols, prototyping, basics. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a shared library for us all to actually use and abuse right now. And it's a cool way to then, you know, collaborate with other designers. But it's going to be cool because I'm just going to use the new Sketch Cloud feature, which if I throw it up there, I give you the link. And, oh, the lights went down. And then you should be good to go. And then whatever I update, you'll get the changes locally on your computer. Cool. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Ooh, sorry, these lights are really hot.
That's alright.
It's okay. I did offer to do this shirtless, but no one went for it. So
It's never too late.
I don't know. I think don't you have to put like a rating on this? Like this is like a PG YouTube thing right now, and if I do that, it's like PG-13.
Too
Oh.
sexy.
Yeah.
Too sexy for Saturday.
Cool. So we have this going on, and I'm going to create the shared library for you. I'll send the link out, and then we'll put on YouTube, the chat, but also on Twitter. Twitter. So I'm going to go over here real quick, and I'm zooming in and out with my trackpad. So just pinching and zooming. You can do like Command minus and plus, or if you wanted to, up here is a zoom tool that allows you to zoom in, or you press the plus and minus and zoom out. So right now I'm just going to create like a new web page. Oh, sorry, I had the zoom too much. There we go. Let's create a new page. This is actually going to be a library. I'm going to delete this one. Sweet. And then I'm going to create a new artboard. Let's just do web thing. Let's just do this. It's a little bit easier for demonstration purposes to have this wider, bigger thing. Cool. So I'm just gonna create like a quick wireframe of a website. I did notice, I forget who did it, but that you sent over like a wireframe of this like cat palace, cat community. I really liked it. So I'm just gonna run with a cat idea today. So thank you for sending that over as one of your example works. So what I'm going to do is right now I'm going to create like a header. And I'm going to just, if I don't do, if I do the shortcuts, just yell at me. Like just, oh, there's a question.
Kelly wants to know
Kelly.
if you can align artboards without messing up the elements within them.
Ah, yeah. So the question, if you didn't hear it, is if you can align artboards without messing up the stuff inside of an artboard. And Alex almost fell off his chair. So yeah, I wasn't doing a good job of being organized, but you can. So I'm going to create this header real quick. Let's go up here. And I did a shortcut already. I pressed R for a rectangle. I'm sorry. So I'm just going to make it like 60 high. And if I don't get it right, I just go over here and just like go up and down. So I have this, and then I'm going to create a copy of this artboard. So you can do normal, what you'd expect throughout your whole computer. There's copy and paste. So Command C, and I can Command V, and I paste it over. It usually pastes it to like to the right. So it should auto align everything by itself. You can move these around, and it doesn't affect anything that's inside of it. It's really for your own personal organization style. How I usually go about it is I go from left to right. Oh, sorry, I did a shortcut again. Sorry. So Command C, Command V. I can do that. And then if I have like a variation of a state of a screen, so let's say if I was doing like a checkout flow for an e-commerce thing, each of these things would be like a page possibly or a step within that flow. And if I try to do like riffs or variations off that, I'll then copy this, paste it, but then I'll like do it down below or above. So that way it's still like linear in thought, but then I have like this up and down vertical of alternatives. And then once I figure out like what I should do, I'll move everything down and keep like the winner up there. And what so one shortcut that I'm gonna use all the time, and you might as well know it now, is holding down the Alt key or Option key. If you click, I forget, so I'll side break real quick. My keyboard is the European style keyboard. So things are in different positions and things are labeled a little bit differently. So I completely forget if the Option key has the actual words option on it.
It does say option.
It does. Cool. Sorry.
In the US keyboard one.
Sweet. Cool. Yeah. So I like the European style one because there's lots of symbols and not a lot of actual labels. And it doesn't cost any more. Just people that use your computer hate you because it's just weird. Okay. So if you hold down the Option key and then you click and drag whatever you have, whether it be an artboard or an object within the artboard, you'll then duplicate it and then you can move it wherever you want. And if you notice when I'm duplicating this, I'm also getting these red lines and these numbers every which way. And that's just telling you the distance between that object and whatever other objects it's around. So when you're holding Alt, this happens. So right now I let go, cool, I duplicated it, I moved it where I wanted to. So now if I just hold Alt itself without moving it around, if you notice that nothing's happening, it's not going to happen with Artboards itself unless you're moving it. But if I had this rectangle up here, I'm going to duplicate it with that Alt key, drag. If you notice right now, I'm not moving it around. I'm just holding Alt and then moving my mouse. It's telling me the distance between the current object that I have selected and the other objects around it, along with like the edges of the artboard. So this is really nice if you're just trying to make sure things are lined up. So in essence, yes, this is how you organize your artboards and things like that. I'm gonna delete all these though, real quick. So a thing to note with this, if you wanna select an artboard, you can either select it here on the canvas, and you do have to go like where the artboard's name is. Otherwise, the blue highlighted part is not going to show up. Or you can come over here on the left-hand side of the layer list and select it that way. So on the canvas, if you hold down Shift, that's how you can select multiple items. If you do that over here on the layer list, though, it'll do it from A to Z. So if I have this first one selected, that's A. If I select this third one while holding down Shift, it goes A, then B, and then C. So if you're going to do it from over here, you'll hold down the Command key, and then you can then select whatever you want, and it won't do that whole like A to Z selection. Cool. I'm going to press the Delete key, get rid of these bad boys. Sweet. So we're back to normal on this one lonely little web page. We'll paint some like happy trees in the background a little bit later. So we have this, and I want to make sure I see everything. Let's make this a bit bigger. So 80. And I'm going to change the color of this real quick, just so it's not pure black. And down here on the right hand side, if you notice, there's like fill, border, shadow, inner shadow, and blur. We'll go into each of these, but for right now, I'm just going to change the fill to something a little bit happier. Let's do this like, yeah, I sort of like that blue. So now we have a blue header. And if we want to get fancy with it, you can actually add multiple fills. So right up here, there's the plus button. Boom, I have another thing. So it's a layer within the fill itself. If you notice on the left-hand side, I still only have one rectangle, but I can have as many fills within that one object as I wanted to. You can get really crazy. And I can turn these on and off. So with these check marks, they're visible. Now they're not visible, and I only have the underline one. You can have an object with like nothing that's just blank. There are some use cases for that. Probably won't get into them, but it can happen. So I'm going to get rid of all these except for this one. Now that I have them unselected, just to clean things up, I'm going to press this trash can. Just so you know, you can't really undo this. So once I have this, all those layers within the fill are gone. Sorry about that. So we got this guy, and from here we can adjust either the color, the blend mode, or the opacity of it. So that affects the fills itself for that object, and up here is for the whole object. So if I do the opacity 50% up here, it's affecting both of these fills. And if I had a border or shadow, it'd affect those too. While down here, if I change the opacity of this second layer, and I can do that by clicking here and then scrubbing this opacity left and right, or I can type a number in. It affects only that layer. So you can do lots of nice subtle effects through this. Let's do this for real. Let's go like, I'm gonna do 30. Cool. And then I'm gonna see what it's gonna look like reversed it. So when you create a new fill, it just automatically creates something above it. Usually does this like white to black gradient at 50%. But you can have multiple things within it. So to go through the color picker, I'm gonna start here on the left-hand side and then work my way to the right. Is there a question or anything?
Ariel Seltzer.
Ariel
says, is asking, can you import color libraries?
Yeah. So I will make sure to cover that. So color libraries. Do this or die. So Maya and then color libraries. So if you notice down here, Ariel, there are global colors and then document colors. So document colors is how you'd expect that. Whatever colors you add there are only accessible through this one sketch file. If you do global colors, that is accessible throughout your whole experience of Sketch. But that doesn't answer the question of, hey, I have this one brand, and this is like wiretap stuff right now, but let's say I want to create something for, I don't know, Forbes or like the North Market, which has a completely different color palette, different color scheme, and I don't want to just like come out down here by my global colors. To delete one, I think you right click, right click, and then hit remove, which I'm not going to do. And then like one by one, add colors, and you can do that by this plus button down here. And it'll add whatever color your current color selection is, which is just a pain in the butt, right? So to get around that, there is a Sketch plugin, and we can get into this a little bit more after that, how to do plugins and everything like that. There is I forget the exact name because there's two that do similar things, but one is 100% better. It's called like Sketch Palettes or Sketch Palette Organizer or something of that nature. It allows you to import and export color swatches, and that's what we use at Wiretap. We have one for like our legacy color scheme, and then a new one for our new stuff. So we can then easily switch out the two and not hate our lives. And then if we update that one sketch like palette file, you just re-import it and then it'll do its magic. So thanks for asking, Ariel. Any other questions? No. Cool. Keep them coming. Like it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't interrupt any flow. Cool. So we have this fill. And from here, this color picker is probably what you'd expect in other ones. Just you can click and drag and it becomes whatever color you have selected. You can also then go down here and then adjust the hue of whatever it is, and then down here is like the alpha channel or the opacity. So if you notice when I move this A is going up and down, as well as the opacity over here is going up and down. So right now in this like single solid color mode, those two are linked, but once you get into gradients, those aren't linked, because then you can have a gradient that goes from like solid black to invisible black, like nothing black, and have like a nice like scrim gradient like you have on YouTube or Netflix. So that way the text is like visible on whatever the background is, but it's like a nice fade, so you can still see the content behind it after the text. And that won't link because, I'll just show you. If you notice, this is right now at 91%, but this white aspect is going from 0 to 100. Makes sense. Then from here, this little color picker guy is going to be like your most like used tool probably, if you ever need to pick a new color outside of your palette. So you can click that and then it goes from your screen, which is nice. It's not limited to whatever you have within the sketch canvas. So let's say, for example, I'm going to move this over a little bit. Oh my god, that's too much. So move that over a little bit, and I wanted to create this. I'm going to pick up the color picker, and there are shortcut keys for this, so you don't have to click like 5 times to do this, but for examples, I can then pick anything from like my desktop over here. So if you have anything on the web and you're like, I like this like Twitter blue, cool, do it. Which is nice. One thing that you might run into, depending on how your computer is set up, is color management, which I feel like there's probably like a 2-hour Linda course or like a crazy like YouTube series on color management for your screen alone. So I really will only get like this far into it. But sometimes when you pick a color from this color picker, it won't be the same. So even if we had these two blue bars, one here, if you notice this hex color is like 338, blah, 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 blah. I come up here, get the color picker. Luckily, like I have it set up right. It's 338, 3D7. That is the same hex, which is good. Sometimes you do this and it's like just a little bit off. It could be darker, it could be lighter. And it's because of your color profile on your screen itself. So what you can do within Sketch, if you go to the preferences up top, there is, I believe in general, color profile. Mine is unmanaged. That means that Sketch doesn't do any manipulation of what's happening on my screen and what's being displayed. So you can change that if I'm going to go to the system preferences on my computer. Oop, hold on. Let's clean this up real quick. Just reading a book. So within your computer itself, there's displays, and then there is a color option here. It's one of those things that once you set it up, you sort of forget about it.
What was that sound?
I just didn't know what to say there. So this whatever HD 709A, I think I like did a custom calibration. I don't remember, honestly. But there is a lot of videos on color management for your screen, and displaying colors correctly, but also getting the color picker to work exactly right. So if you have problems, just let me know and I can find like the weird resources that can help you out for that. But hopefully not. Like hopefully it should just be fine. You'll never have to think about this in your life. Cool. So we have the color picker. And then here is the global colors that I have. And you probably have, I'll make this a little bit bigger. You probably have RGB right down over here. I have it set to HSB because as a human, I can interpret colors like this a little bit easier. HSB stands for hue, saturation, and brightness, and then A is for alpha, or the opacity. So with the hue, if you notice when I change this, it is essentially the color. Saturation is how dark or saturated it is, not dark. And then brightness is lightness and darkness. So what's nice is you can then pick a color and be like, oh, this gotta be a little bit brighter. It's really easy to do. But if you want RGB, or if you want HSB and you have RGB, it is not intuitive on how to change between the two modes. The only hint you have is when you hover over it, you have this like outline selection. You just click. I don't know, man. I didn't make this, but you click it and then it changes from RGB to HSB. Don't tell me why or ask me why that's the case, but that's the decision that they made. Sometimes it just doesn't work the first time you click it. So sometimes you just move your mouse and then click it again and it works. There is another color mode called HSL. It's hue, saturation, I cannot say that word, and lightness. And it's different from brightness. And there is an HSL color picker plugin. That's a tongue twister. HSL color picker plugin. Really hard. That you can download if you are in that mode. So whatever suits your fancy. Cool. So we got that. And one cool thing is if you click on this like little color swatch, it tells you how many times that color is used throughout your sketch file, which is sometimes good to know, because then if you have like one stray color and you like want to make sure everything's consistent, you can see like the sort of the outliers that are out there. Cool. So that's a lot of stuff going on in the color picker. The keyboard command, if you want to bring up the color picker tool itself, is Control C. So right now I have this new object, Control and then C. I then have the color picker pulled up, lickety split. Like 99% of the time when I have to use the color picker, I do that. You might be noticing like my default box when I create a new thing, which again, sorry, I'm doing it so fast, is I'm creating a rectangle. We're just holding the R key and it puts it on the board. So you can go up here to insert, or you might have it up here as a part of a rectangle tool. From here, there is a default style that Sketch automatically comes with, and I think it's like light gray with like some kind of like darker gray border. If you don't like that, especially because if you keep doing that and it keeps adding this like border that you have to keep deleting, the way to set a default style is by clicking on an object that you want the default to be, going up to layer, and then there is style set as default. And then from then on, any object that you create, whether it be a triangle, polygon, star, rectangle, circle, or oval, as they call it, it will be that style, which is nice. Just a time-saving tip. Cool. So we have that. Then for gradients, if you notice over here, I can change the colors of what they are, but I can also add as many color stops in between. I wish you could have more fine-grained control over where these are. Like you can only guess like, oh, this is I guess like 10 or 15%. There are plugins that help make that a little bit more precise. You can though, with having something selected, if you press like, let's say the number 5 on your keyboard, this changes it to 50%, or 6 is 60%, 7 is 70%. It's one thing I found accidentally, but it does help if you really want something somewhat precise. But that is one thing I wish that could be improved out of the box, but there are, again, plugins that will help this out a bit. And same thing as with the solid colors, you can have global gradients and document gradients as well. And if you want to change stuff up, if I had it like this, there is this rotate button that then rotates it within the object itself. Or you can go and directly manipulate it on the canvas and just drag where you want it to go, and even drag the position of the color stops within the gradient. And you can have this like overflowing. So if you just want to like a little bit of tinge of orange, a little bit like that, that's good. I like that. So we got that. I'll just create another color on top of it real quick, just to show off like the blend modes. And how these are set up. There are, if you notice, there's sort of segmented like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. Normal is what you'd expect. Up here, darken, multiply, and color burn. Those make the thing below it darker. Light and screen color dodge, that makes the thing below it lighter. Overlay, soft light, and hard light, that makes a combination of darker and lighter depending on the overlaying color. And then difference and exclusion are a bit like opposites. And then hue, saturation, color, and luminosity only look at the current layer's hue and adjust it, the below one, based on that. Sometimes it's really hard to like even know what actually will happen once you do one of these color modes or the blending modes. So you just gotta experiment, and then you'll get like a rough idea of like what actually happens. Half the time I like sort of guess like, this could look good with soft light, and like, shit, that actually doesn't. So then you do overlay and like, all right, maybe. And then hard light, like, that's really too intense. So whatever suits your fancy. Cool. So from here, there are radial gradients as well. If you notice over here on the canvas, it's a bit different. It's a circle. Same concepts apply from the other gradient. This, you just move it around. In the center of the circle is the left-hand side of the gradient thing. And from here, you can move it up and down, but also you can make it like thin or fat, however you like. And then same thing, you can move it off the canvas. And it does lots of smart guides. If you notice, there's lots of red lines trying to like help me guide it. If you didn't want those happening, you can hold down the command key, and it just lets you do like a free form, like I'm gonna move this wherever I want, and it's not gonna like bring me to the edge exactly or lock me in with like a magnetic force. So pretty handy to know. The angled one is exactly the same, just a little bit different style. And then there is picture fill. So with here, there are like some basic ones that you get out of the box, but you can go and grab something from the internet. So let's say I'm just gonna grab this, drag and drop it. Hey, now I have whatever this is. And if you notice, it's just a layer, a part of, it's a fill layer, a part of this object. I can come over here and just like drag it a part of the artboard itself, and it creates its own object. It's separate. So sometimes this is useful, especially for symbols, because then you can easily swap in and out images, especially for let's say profile photos of people. Really nice. And the last one is like noise. It is how it looks, just noisy stuff. Are there any questions?
Someone just had a quick question.
Yeah.
Like, you know how in Photoshop you can export artboards as separate PDFs?
Yeah.
Can you do that in here too?
Yeah. Yep. So the question was about like exporting stuff. In Photoshop, you can export artboards. Sketch is like one of the first things what came out with, I forget, like 3, 4, 5 years ago. Whenever Sketch 3 first came out in the scene, the biggest thing was its export features, and how easy it was compared to Photoshop or Illustrator or anything else. So let's say, I will get back to the shared library. That is just a note for me to not forget that this is a thing that I had to do. So for Artboards itself, so we have this desktop HD, and down on the right hand side, there is this make exportable option. That also appears when you have an object selected. So you can select multiple objects, make them exportable, or you can even select multiple artboards, make them exportable all at the same time, or you can select them through the layer list, things like that. So I can make them exportable, and then once you hit it once, this is the default like 1x. That means like whatever resolution you have right now, that's what it's going to be export at. So these artboards are 1,440 wide by 1024. You can change this to be, let's say, like 2x. So that's twice it. So that'd be 2,880. You could do 2.2 if you wanted to, x. You do have to have the x. That's how it knows it to multiply. Or you can even do like set widths or heights. So if I wanted these to be thumbnail images for web asset or like marketing materials, I can do like 300W, and those would export as 300 wide, and then it would calculate the height to be whatever. Or let's say I have to do the opposite. I have to do 400 high, and then it would calculate the width to be whatever it should be, which is really, really handy. So this is like the default, and it's a PNG. You can change this to whatever format you do need, like JPEG, TIFF, WebP, which if you really want optimal performance on images, sometimes that's cool. PDF, EPS, SVG. There are some quirks with PDF and EPS if you have really highly complex gradients and many fill layers within an object. I ran into that multiple times. There are ways around it. Just know that if you keep it simple or like somewhat, you know, like it makes sense. It can do it instead of having like 20 layers of crazy complex blending modes and crazy crap. You should be good. So you have like this one default, and then you can keep adding, just like you can do layers and fills and borders. Keep adding export options. So I keep hitting this plus, and it just auto generates whatever it wants. So these are just the default. So it's creating like a 1x version, 2x, 3x, 1.5, 0.5. And right here, this prefix suffix, it adds it either to the beginning or the end of the file name. So for these two examples, this desktop HD and desktop HD copy, they would have at the end of them at 1x, at 2x, at 3x. So they, two reasons. One, they don't overwrite. Every time you export, it doesn't export 5 of these things, and then all you really have is one thing because it's been overwritten 5 times. And also for like developer handoffs or even internally for your own sake, just knowing like what resolution these things are at. If you didn't want to go down this route, or if you already have like custom sizes that you keep doing every time, there is a preset in these like 3 little lines with the circles, and there are some default ones. Let's just, I don't know what web means. Cool, 1x, 2x, 3x. So if you're doing, if you have a site and you want to do responsive images, like give them a person that has like a low resolution screen, the lowest resolution that they need, and then a high resolution screen, like if you have a Retina device or like a Galaxy thing, you can do a 3x, then swap them out depending on it is. This is the easiest way. You just export the 3 versions, and you're good to go. So I have these going on. If I really wanted to, I can change it to a prefix, but for right now, it's just a suffix. And then once I hit export, if you notice before I do that, there are these 2 artboards right here. They're just previews of what's going to happen. These checkered backgrounds are similar to probably what you'd expect in Photoshop of like some transparent layer. You can add a background color to them, and it'll be whatever color is picked right here. So these will have a white background color, and it's included in the export. Sometimes it's nice if you're working with white icons to make the background black, but you're not going to include that actual background in the export because you just want the icons themselves. So I've done that so many times where I accidentally don't include it in export, and I'm just wondering like, oh crap, I have the transparent layer. I don't need this. Go back, export them out, overwrite them. We're all good. So I have all these 3 things. I'm going to export. I'm just going to export it to my desktop. And then we're going to visit the desktop. Like, hey, look at that. Desktop HD copy, 2x, 2x, 3x, and they're all there. Nice. And then I'm going to delete them just because It's gonna get messy real fast. So you can do that with artboards, but even like layers themselves, you can export individual ones and do the same sort of rigmarole. Cool. Does that answer your question, I think? Sweet.
Sean, do you want a coffee?
Coffee? I don't know.
You just made your coffee.
I feel like the coffee's really hot in these
Yeah.
light. You know what I mean?
Do you want some, you can put some coconut milk.
Is it like frozen coffee?
Frozen? We can freeze it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like freeze coffee.
I don't know, man. I'm good with water. Thank you, though.
Oh, so you don't want the coffee I got you?
I'll have it like after I'm done.
And then it'll
I
be
think.
cold.
I like I'm sweating right now.
Alright. I can show you screen. Let me show you screen so you can wipe down your face.
Oh, thanks. Cool.
Yeah.
My
As we
dirty,
do this,
my
let's
dirty,
try to
dirty
get
face
some-
towel.
Are there any questions?
No, he just answered.
Okay, cool. I was in coffee duty.
Okay,
You
cool.
want coffee?
So the export, we went over colors, artboards themselves, and then we'll get into borders real quick. I'm going to delete this copy. Zoom in here, the zoom tool. Let's make this actually good. Cool. Let's just change the opacity really quick. There we go. Subtle shade of blue. Delete everything else. Awesome. So we have this toolbar. We're gonna just explore all these other options within the layer. And once we're done with that, that's like the basics for every kind of object you have within Sketch. And then it's really up to your creativity as to how you actually get things done. So from here, I'm just gonna add a border. I'm gonna add like a black border, but I'm gonna have the opacity of it like be probably like 10-ish. And one nice like trick I like to do is actually get the color of whatever is happening. So I'm gonna grab this blue, and instead of going just straight black and having that overlaid, I'm gonna have like this dark blue, like it's a rich blue. It's just a nice like little subtle detail, but I like doing that for like choosing colors. Cool. So we got that. And if you notice from here, it's a little bit different from fills, where the blending mode is within the color picker, while the position of the border is the thing that's like most prominent. So center means, and let's move this down a little bit. I'm just gonna resize this over here on the left and right hand side. You can do it from any of these like white boxes. And from here, just gonna up the thickness of this, and I'm gonna, on my keyboard, just press up with the arrow key. Right now with center, that means, I'm gonna zoom in, the border is on both the left and the right hand side of like the actual layer itself. This is a little bit more apparent, so if I change the opacity of the border, if you notice like the part that's on the inside is actually on the object, while the outside is on the white background. So I usually like to have it either on the inside or the outside. The center sometimes gets iffy as to like export options, and also just like with this particular example, when you have the opacity of the border, it gets weird on the outside. So I'm gonna have it on the inside for this example. I'm gonna bring it back down to like 1. Cool. So we have that going there. I'll put this up the top. And if you didn't want to like manually drag this all the way up to the top, over here are some align options. So when you have something selected, you can either have like go all the way to the top, to the left. Oh, I guess that's in the center. Oh, these are there, bottom. Yep, center, top. There's also like left, right, middle. So you can do that with one object itself. I'll just put this up here, make it go the whole width. And then once we put stuff in this menu bar with cat stuff, we can explore like the resizing options and create this shared library out to you all. and how to align objects. So we have that like subtle, I don't even know if you can see it through like the stream, subtle like border at the bottom, just to give it some differentiation. And then we're going to create a shadow just because we have to. And from here you can actually add multiple shadows as well, same as borders and fills. So same thing with before. I like to grab a color and then base the black off of the actual color of the object. And then from here, X, Y are like how it's offset. So the more Y, the downer it is, more down it is. Blur it real quick. Go down here. And then let's change the opacity so it's not like straight up in your face. Cool. So it's like about there. And then spread is like how much it adds to it before. So if it looks at the object height and width, then adds that to like its area and mass. So if I have more spread, if you notice it's like huge shadow. If I have negative spread, it actually like decreases in size. I'm just gonna have it 0. Oh no, you need a number. I can't just say nothing. Cool. So we have a subtle shadow going on too. All right, this is nice, this is nice. And then you can do inner shadow as well. Same concepts. You can do lots of them. You can go crazy. Probably not gonna go along with this for realsies, but just to show off how it can happen. Let's delete that. And then blur. Blur is a tricky little beast. So I'm just gonna make this rectangle real quick, and then I'm gonna make a circle. To do that oval, it's the O key. We'll do this. And if you notice when I'm making it, it's just like loosey-goosey. Like I want like a perfect circle and not this like weird thing. So to do that, if you hold down the Shift key, it then, from wherever you started the circle, it will do it a proportional size thing. So if you notice it's the same ratio, like 153 by 153, or it's a square, which is nice. So I can do that. Another thing to know when you're creating an object or resizing even, so I'm just gonna create the circle. Cool. So if you hold down the Option key, what will happen is it will resize from the center, which is sometimes nice. So if I'm gonna create another circle, hold down the Shift key, but I'm also now holding down Shift and Alt. It's gonna resize from the center within a square ratio. So just really handy things to know, especially if you create lots of, squares, circles, things that look nice. Cool. So we have this like weird abstract Mickey Mouse going on right now. So to demonstrate the blur, I'm gonna real quick make this gradient so it's a little bit more noticeable. So the blur itself, there's a couple different options. Gaussian, how do you pronounce that actually? Gaussian. Motion and zoom all affect the object itself. Background blur is a bit different as it affects the objects below the current one. And you'll see what I mean. So with Gaussian blur, this left Mickey Mouse ear is getting a little bit like out of focus if you've just had like way too many beers. There's motion blur, which then, woo, I don't know, when you get, if you have, if you're drunk, you're not have the best vision. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. So you have this, you can have adjust the motion or how fast it's going by pixels, and then also the angle. Zoom is like zooming in and zooming out. And then by editing the origin, you are telling it like where you're gonna zoom from. So you can do some nifty effects with this. It's like a spotlight thing. Just know with all of these things, all the blur options, when you export it out as like an SVG, these can sometimes just like trip you up and it just looks like poop. Just because it depends on like some fancy CSS and SVG filters, and it might not like 100% translate into an actual SVG.
That's so weird. That's literally, I was just about to ask you, like, what does that look like when you export it as an SVG?
Yeah, we can do that real quick.
Yeah, it shouldn't work.
It shouldn't work.
Yeah. And what I was wondering is if it actually turns into a bitmap and imports it as an SVG.
I'd be surprised. We'll test this out. I'll just do that and we'll go to it in a little bit. I could also do like a whole course on SVGs. We won't get too in depth in them.
I think we've gotten asked that before.
Yeah, I mean they're awesome. If you don't know anything about SVGs, it stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. They're amazing for the web and development. Like even on, I think iOS, can they accept SVGs? I know that for a while it was
iOS?
not. Yeah.
I actually don't think so.
I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're pretty awesome because since they're scalable, they're not like a PNG, JPEG, or a bitmap file. Whatever resolution that you have them at. So if you want them to be the whole screen or just like a small thing, they're going to be fine. Crisp details, everything's cool. But the coolest part is that it's code, and human-ish readable code. And when I say that, like you can make sense of what's happening in there, and then you can do things programmatically. And in the sense of like tying it to actions and events. Like if you click a button, you change the color of an SVG for something to something else without having to create like 20 different versions of the SVG file, which I know is a pain in the butt. So I'm just going to export this out as an SVG and we're going to see what's going to happen. But before we get to that, I'm going to do the background blur. So this one's really applicable to if you're doing any kind of iOS stuff, just because it's like a native thing where you have this like frosted glass effect. You've probably seen it before, but on the web to do it, you have to rely on like Safari and using like these like experimental features that you can still do it, it just won't render for anybody else. So it's more of like a progressive enhancement sort of thing. So I'm gonna do a small background blur, and then I'm going to change the opacity of this object real quick because that's the only way you can actually see it. So if you notice, this little guy is at 50%, but once I put it over on top of something, the background, the things below it are then blurred, which is a really cool effect, and it's really easy to do within iOS. For the web, you have to do some tomfoolery to get it done. But if you're just exporting something out for like a marketing graphic or anything like that, cool, just use it and just know that the limitations of how to implement it are still there. Another thing is performance-wise, the more blur you have going on within a page, so if I had like 20 things with this background blur effect, it's really, really CPU intensive. So if Sketch is slowing down, you might have too many blur layers. Cool. So here we go. This is that oval SVG with that like zoom effect. As you can see, it doesn't have that effect. So cool. Any questions? Just wondering. If not, it's all right.
Generally speaking, is everyone getting what they want out of this?
Yeah, I know. I'm going pretty deep into like this like inspector mode for the layer list for the object. But it's like where you spend like 90% of your time just manipulating objects.
And just so you know, when we're talking live right now, it's about 5-10 seconds later that they hear us asking that question.
Cool. So we just got to do like a
little like a little pause here.
Little pause. A little ditty.
Drink your water. Zoom in on that. Any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Could you take like maybe 10 minutes to talk about the major differences between other design softwares?
Yeah.
Ones?
Yeah.
Illustrator comes to mind.
Yeah.
Maybe just high level
Concept
differences.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna cover once I create the shared library, which I've been trying to do for a while and just kept getting distracted. We'll go over the major differences between Sketch and let's say Illustrator, Figma, Adobe XD, Affinity Designer, Framer, it's a laundry list of stuff that can happen. So yeah, definitely go over that, because there are things that you probably shouldn't use Sketch for. Just being really realistic. Cool. So we went over lots of the stuff that you can do within a layer itself. I'm just going to make a really, really nasty like cat community.
Your phrases today are...
Yeah, there's something else.
What was the one that you kept saying earlier? Not Piggly Wiggly, but...
Piggly Wiggly, Loosey Goosey?
Loosey Goosey.
Yeah.
That's like that's always been your go-to.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I did the shortcut. So to create some text on the screen, you can do insert text or the letter T. Really easy to remember. From there, you can just start typing stuff.
Are you going to move on to something? Because there's a question we might want to slip in.
Sure, yeah.
Well, there's two questions actually.
Cool, hit them.
So, wondering if you have text within a box and want to keep 20 pixel padding all around, but scale the box, how do you do that within the padding scaling? Without the padding scaling?
Ooh. Say that again. So you have a text box.
So yeah, if you have text within a box and want to keep 20 pixel padding all around, but you want to scale the box, how do you do that without padding scaling?
Yeah, so the answer is Patty. Whoever asked that question.
It's Kelly.
Kelly, hola. The answer is a plugin called Patty. Patty is awesome. I should actually probably donate money to the guy that made Patty, because it is exactly what you are asking for. You set whatever you have, and then it creates padding consistently for that object. And then whenever you update the size of it, it will automatically update the stuff around it. Especially amazing for buttons, if you just want a consistent padding around a button. So once we get into plugins, which we'll definitely do, we'll tackle the color libraries, export, import, but also Patty. And then if we want to get really crazy, there is a plugin by Anima, which allows you to do animation within it, which I think that's their primary goal. But they also did a thing called stacked groups, which helps with lots of consistent layouts. And in conjunction with Patty, it's like you have a internal like Flexbox web browser thing right in Sketch. So
yeah, and then there's one more question. This is actually something I'm interested in too.
Okay.
Can we...
Everything else I've talked about, no one's been interested in anything.
It's okay. Care about this also.
Yeah.
So can we hear about how to create interactions between artboards for wireframing or prototyping?
Yes. So totally.
So it's more for like layout.
Yeah, prototyping. So I'm just gonna jam out this header bar real quick. We have cat community. We'll link this out to another page that allows you to like sign in or something like that. And then we'll definitely have a button, which will then go over plugins and things like that. So we have this cat community. I want to make sure by holding Alt, I'm going to see like where it is. It's like 18, 19. I'm going to change the text though. I'm going to make it like over here. So the text, you have not as many options as in Illustrator or Photoshop. You can change the typeface, the weight, some basic options within like underline and lists. They're not all that fancy, along with alignment and then like letter spacing. If you want to do like kerning between like one letter and another, you can. So I'll just highlight that real quick because it's not obvious. So if I have this co and community.
Hey Sean, can you give me 1 second? My computer's
Yeah.
kind of whatever you were just doing, like it just made my computer go nuts. So give me a quick second here as like
Okay.
if you could make a mental note of where you are. I just want to make sure
I'll make a mental note.
something is causing me to spike, so I'm gonna kill some stuff going here.
Cool, cool.
It could also just be because we're running into like hour 3 of my recording here.
Oh.
I'm gonna, we'll just try this.
Hi, Kyle. Welcome to the team. Hopefully everyone that's watching this, you have some cool things planned for Saturday. It's really nice weather here in Columbus, so probably gonna go to the pool after this.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not my pool. I just have a key to the pool.
And you
It's
inviting all like 30 of us.
I don't. Well, it's not my pool to invite anybody. It's like not even.
You're telling us about it.
I know. I'm
All right, we're good.
I'm putting on the record that I'm going to a pool that's not mine. I have access to it, but
And no one else was invited.
it's not my place to invite
Weird,
someone.
weird.
It's not even like my place to just go there. But I have access to it. So you know what I mean?
You should ask everybody where they're viewing from.
Oh yeah.
I like this photo.
Where you at? Unless you're like, oh, I just want to tell like America, northern hemisphere of the world. If you're like really privacy conscious. But yeah, I mean, I was looking through like the list of attendees and like I don't know half of you, which is awesome. Cool. Hopefully, have fun.
Yeah, and someone wanted you to mention the Craft plugin if you've heard of it.
Yeah, Craft.
While we
Yes.
talk about like prototyping.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, guys. So we can get back to the one thing that you actually cared about.
Cool. So we're back at it. We can actually show my screen, and I was just going to show off the kerning or letter spacing real quick. If you want to do anything with internal to a text box, because once you do something over here, it affects everything within it. But you can come in here, highlight something, and then change certain aspects of it, and it doesn't affect everything else. So sometimes that is useful if you're doing anything like this. Cat community. Probably would never want to do that. I'm just going to change that back to normal. Cool. So we got cat community. All right, and then I'm going to go over here. We're going to make a button. Yeah, we're getting advanced. So we're going to insert a shape. And for this aspect, instead of a rectangle, I'm going to do a rounded rectangle. They're essentially the same, except for out of the box of a rounded rectangle, they have rounded corners. And you'll get this new option of radius. So you can then adjust the four corners, how the border radius is. So let's do like 8. If you want to get like really crazy, you can, if you want to get really crazy with this shape itself, and this applies for like any rectangle, circle, any vector object you have within here, not like that image I pulled in from the website. You can then edit it. You can either go up here and say edit, and then you'll have like these 4 or however many points there are within the object. You can select it and then adjust that corner itself if you want to get like really abstract with it. There's also ways to then adjust the way that this node is, whether it be straight or you have mirrored, you have handles that you can then adjust it. We can get into that later. That's really into like the vector editing aspect of it. But if we're really just trying to get this button done, let's make it 8 pixels. Cool. Finish editing. Sweet. I'm gonna make it like white again. This off-white blue thing. And then I'm gonna start typing some text. I'm gonna hit the T button, just like sign up. And then I'm gonna change the color of this guy to like, let's just do this blue. Cool. This is really yelling in your face, but it gets the job done. So we got this. Then I have this sign up, and I'm gonna hold the Alt button and see like the padding around it. I'm gonna be like 16. Now let's do 24. 1, 2, 3. Cool. Then over here, make it 24 as well. Sweet. So we got a sign up button. Then from here, if you want to group these objects, right now they're just, all these things are by themselves. You can select them both or whatever you have, and then right click it over here and then say group selection, or the shortcut key is Command G. So now I have this group. Within it, I have this text and the background. Sweet. So I'm going to make this a quick symbol just so we have one. And to do that, I can go to symbols. Actually, create symbol, sorry. Yours is probably on the left-hand side if you haven't messed with anything. And then I'm just going to call it basic button. Cool. So now I have a basic button symbol, and with the symbol, if I update it once, it updates everywhere, which is pretty cool. And on the left-hand side, if you notice, it's changed from that group folder to this thing with like 2 arrows. And then on the right-hand side, I now have this basic button. You probably don't have all these libraries, and that's what I'm about to create. But I have all these things that are coming in that I have shared. And then the coolest thing is that you can override some elements of the symbol. So right now it says sign up. I can say like, call me yo, and then it'll update over here in the canvas. And this is where having something like Patty, the plugin, will help. I can readjust this. If you notice, it does resize some of the way, but then I still have to guess on like how much padding is actually on the right-hand side. So I'm going to undo all this, Command Z, real quick. Sweet. So we got sign up. That's it. We're done with this header. So I highlighted it all, grouped it all, and from here I'm actually going to make this a symbol as well. So what that means is I have this basic button symbol on the right hand side. It's going to be nested within this header bar symbol. So to do this again, I'm going to create symbol, let's say header. This is the most basic header in the world. Now if you notice on the left hand side, everything's gone except for header. But when I have it selected, I can now change this basic button to something else or just get rid of it completely. And I can change the cat community to like dogs only. And what's nice is if I change the symbol, or if I change the text anywhere on different artboards, that'll stay the same, but then I can change the look and feel of the header and it'll be updated everywhere else. Just wondering, are there questions? Okay, I just saw a head nod or something like that. Cool, so we have this, dogs only. Sorry, cats. So we got this, and then I'm just gonna duplicate this real quick just so we can do the prototyping capabilities as well. So we got 2 dogs, and we're gonna do some prototyping and then upload this to SketchCloud, do the shared library, and then we have a resource for us all. So if you don't have it, there is this link button, and then preview. Actually I have that preview that relate to the prototyping aspects. So if I click this link button, I'm going to link this artboard. I think if I have this header selected, I can then link it itself. So right now, since I have the whole header selected, I got this like yellow outline, this yellow arrow, and some symbols on the left and right hand side of my artboard. So to explain what all this means is I have this whole header and now it's a hotspot and I can tell it to go to somewhere else. So I can then select this other artboard. Cool. I'm gonna go over there when I click this. And just to differentiate the two, I'm gonna come here and just like make a star real quick. Hey. And then over here, some polygon. Hey. What's cool with polygons and stars is you can change how many sides there are. So you can have a really bulging star with like a bajillion points, tons of sides. Pretty fun.
It's 12 hours.
It's 12 o'clock, just so you know. So we got the header, we got this link thing going on. And then since I have this animation, prototyping capabilities going on now, I have this animation and where it's going to aspect. Since I only have 2 artboards, there aren't really much to pick from. But from here, I can just have the animation just do nothing, slide in from the right, the bottom, the left, or down. This is cool if you're doing like a modal thing. You just want to have something pop up, and then pop back down once you have it dismissed. I'm just going to have it, for just demo purposes, just come up from the bottom so it's really apparent. And then actually I'm going to go make this cats only. This makes no sense to do a site this way, but here we are. So we have this, got the link, and now to actually see what happens, we can go to preview, and it will create whatever is like the starting one. By default, I think it's like the first artboard it can find. If you didn't want that to be the starting point, I want this copy to be what I can come up here, go to desktop HD copy, click this flag, and now that's the start. I wish this was a little bit more apparent, but now that you know, you can tell your friends. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I have this preview window. If you've ever used anything like Envision or Flinto or Marvel, any kind of like hotspot mockup preview tool, this is sort of similar. It just came out, I think, about a couple months ago, and there is going to be an update in the next version of Sketch. You can get it in the Sketch beta, which I mean, if you want to test the waters, you can. But they're going to make it so that you can have fixed headers and footers, so that way you can scroll through the page and it's not like your header's lost. They just didn't have that out in the first release of this. Cool. So I have this dogs only. If you notice, when I hover over this, I hit sign up. Hey, cats only. And now I can't click anywhere because I didn't actually create another interaction. I only did the sign up for dogs only. So I'm going to get out of this real quick. So I'm going to go over here to cats only. I'm going to click on this star and make this a link. So from here, I could link it back to this artboard, but what I can do instead is I can hit this arrow, make this as big as possible. It's not as big as possible. I'm going to zoom in on my computer. So this arrow on the left-hand side, if you click that, it will go back to wherever you came from. So I'm going to preview again. So I have cats only. I click this. I can't go back anywhere because I actually haven't gone anywhere. Let's change where we started from. Make this the start. Cool. Now we're live. If you notice, when I click anywhere that isn't a hotspot, it highlights the places that you can click. So I can click here. I go here. Cats only. Beautiful. Click this. I'm back to dogs only. So this is really nice, especially if you have like a huge flow and you don't really know actually what would happen if you hit the back button. You can do that. If you want to change it, you can, do I have to hit the link button? Yeah, I do. So instead of going back, I can go right here. Actually, I'm going to make another artboard real quick because otherwise it doesn't make sense. So I'll do this, create a link, go to this like external arrow, and then I can go easily select an artboard from here instead of manually finding it within the canvas. So if you notice, it now links over here. I didn't have to like manually select it. This is really good if you have like a crazy complex prototype and you didn't want to find it. Cool. So now we have all this going on. Sign up. This now takes me to here, and this should not take me anywhere. Beautiful. Now I can go back. Cool. So I'm going to get rid of, actually, I'll keep it all. So we got this, and I'm going to put this in the cloud now, the moment of truth. So I'm going to update this. So I already just said like upload to cloud before we started, so now it's just there. And I will give, oh geez, I hit the button. I'll get this link going.
My computer's starting to really hate us.
Oh, that's good. So this is, so I have the, gave to the Columbus Web Group Twitter account. It's this like random URL. If you go there on your computer, you will see this exact thing, where you see prototypes, the library, as well as symbols.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is all on the web, so even if you had a PC, Linux machine, what have you, it's all here, so you can still view it.
Is that also on the internet?
This, I mean, yes. This is.
A typewriter.
This is
What can I do
the.
with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you'd have to talk to like Tom Hanks about that typewriter
Do I need to
thing.
type in www?
Yeah, I think don't think you need www. Crazy enough.
You need the HTTP.
You don't need HTTP either.
HTTP is not secure anymore.
Yeah.
Do I add the S or the no S?
Cool. So.
So I click the cloud link and it says the document is private.
Oh, good
Oh.
call. I'll make it
You
public.
know, at least one person's paying attention.
Anyone with the link.
Very exclusive bunch here.
Cool. So this is the link. I don't know how we're distributing
Oh, wow.
it.
I'll put it on Twitter.
Twitter. Sketch.cloud/s/rqyza. Capital Q and capital A. Or else it probably won't work.
This
Cool.
is the CAD community library.
Yeah. Pretty basic. But you can see that we have that sassy symbol I created a long time ago. Basic button and a header. Cool. Sort of prototyping done. So from here, if you go to preferences within Sketch, we can do libraries within here.
Alright, library links on Twitter.
Sweet. Library link is on CBus Web Group Twitter.
It's also in the chat.
Also in the chat. Boom. Boom diggity. So if you notice with the settings I have here in the Sketch Cloud, the web version, web viewer and prototype in place. If you want to do this on your team, you can then just have a private link that you only have like certain email addresses, and then you have to create like a Sketch Cloud account. But what's nice is you can do comments on, like do feedback on designs, as well as the ability for whoever's viewing it to download the actual Sketch file itself. And
It's room temperature.
it's room temp. Awesome. Room temp coffee. And then use as library, which is the bee's knees. So what's cool with this is I now have made it a library, and you can then come in here. You can download it. It's nothing fancy, but you can add this library to Sketch. I'm gonna do that myself. I don't know if this is gonna like put me into like an infinite loop of craziness, but let's do it. It worked. So cool. This is awesome. So within Sketch, in the preferences, there is that library section, and I have a lot of libraries going on. But if you notice, it added this Sketch Workshop June 30th, 2018 library to my local computer. And this thumbnail is not the prettiest. You can do like custom thumbnails and what have you. And you can deselect or select it on whether you want it or not. I have a couple other ones that I've like turned off just because I don't use them. But what's cool now is I'm going to create a new, completely new Sketch document that's not related to any of this dogs and cat craziness. So I did like Command N, just create a new one. And I now have, if I go up to symbols, I have the Sketch Workshop June 30th, 2018 symbol library. So this is a completely new document, unrelated, like this thing doesn't even really know about the other one. But I have these elements that I already created accessible in this document, which I don't know about you, like it's awesome. You don't have to like copy and paste crap, like it's there. And then what's cool is if I update it over here in my the actual workshop sketch file, it will then update it in all of my other files that I use those symbols in. Not automatically though. I have to make that a point. I know the camera's not on me right now, but I looked hardcore into the camera with my finger and I wagged it. It will not update automatically. You have to explicitly say like, yo dog, I want the changes from the library to happen locally for me. Otherwise, like if someone like was on your team and just like completely screwed everything up and like, it's my last day, I'm just gonna fuck with these guys, and then just boom, and then you just get updates. That's bad. That sucks. So there's always an ask and a permission. So what I'll do is over here in dogs only, I'm gonna edit this symbol. So to do that, it's not super apparent like what you got to do, because on the right hand side I now have these overrides. There isn't anything over here on the layers list anymore. So there's two ways you can do it. One way is going to the symbols page in your document. What I usually do though is double click the symbol, and then it takes you right to it within the symbols page. And then to go back, you can say click return to instance, and it takes you where you should be, or where you were. So from here, I can come in, and then I'm going to change this blue to be more cat-like, this orange. Cool. So now I did that. So now my headers are all orange. This is not the best design work, but it's examples, man. It's examples. So now I have that going on. I'm going to save this real quick and then update the document.
Do you remember in 2009, I would
2009.
say, when everyone used orange, blue, and that green color? Like Microsoft, at Google, they all rebranded to that orange, like that orange, that blue,
and then that
green,
vibrant green. Yeah,
it's the worst. Like literally, like it's so bad. I hate seeing those colors.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah.
Then I notice Roos like uses those colors.
Cool. So I now updated the document locally. I pushed it to Sketch Cloud. So that means our shared libraries. So if you've followed along at home, you should now have an update to your library. I don't know how fast it is, quite honestly. So I'm gonna do this Sketch Workshop 2020 test. So what should happen is up at the right hand side, let's see, header, blue. Should be a thing that pops up in like, hey, one library update found. I'm just gonna make sure, yep, it's there. View in Sketch Cloud. Cool. So it's updated online. So that means it should update here at some point in time. I'm gonna do one locally just so you see the notification. So I'm gonna do wiretap. There we go. So this is a library I have, but it lives like locally on my computer or within like a shared drive. So I'm gonna change this real quick. So mask, cool. Save this document library. So I'm back over here. Cool, this is what I wanted. Library updates available. So if I click this, it will show you everything that has been updated within the library that also exists within your Sketch document right now. Visually, this is not anything different, just for this one local example. Once the Sketch Online style library comes down to you, it should look, instead of blue, it should look like orange. I'm going to update the component, and then boom, my voice is going out. Oh my god. So as you can see, within like a distributed team or within just like a team within yourself, it's a nice way to keep things organized and then have consistent everything going forward.
That's so sick.
So sick.
That's so sick.
So this would probably be a good time to explain the differences between Sketch and all the other things. And this is where I'm going to go to the internet. So one alternative is Adobe XD. And just wondering if there's like any questions before I get into the different. Cool. So with Adobe XD, it's made by Adobe, and they just made it free. So $0. You don't need Creative Cloud. You don't need a subscription. You just need a computer and the internet. And it's cross-platform, so whether you have a Windows machine, Mac, I think even like Linux, you can still run it. And with Adobe XD, it is, I mean, it's better than what it was. It's better than what it was. It was very, very basic to begin with. they keep adding more functionality. There are some concepts of like symbols and text styles and color libraries of sorts, but it still feels like it's missing a lot of stuff where you'd expect like some like guides, or sometimes like importing and exporting things. It doesn't really work all that well. Also, like just the layer management, I feel stupid using it sometimes, but I have before. What is nice is it does have like the design and prototyping modes. They're two distinct things, and you do get a shareable URL with like an inspect mode. So if you've ever used Envision, you can hover over something in the web with XD, and it would tell you, I'll go over here, it would tell you the color, the size, the hex value, if there's a gradient, which is really nice, especially for like a developer handoff. You just share like a private link, and then they can open it up and then get all the details of whatever object, along with like the spacing between the things. Within Sketch Online, there isn't anything. At Wiretap, our design to dev workflow is from sketching on a piece of paper, then do something in Sketch, creating new components within the library if necessary, then importing that into Envision. And Envision does lots of that, like developer handoff with like what the color should be, the sizing requirements, but also like a little bit more nuanced prototyping capabilities. Like Sketches is still like pretty early on, and if you didn't want to select an object, I know I didn't cover this, but you can create like a hotspot instead of selecting an object itself. So if you wanted only sign up instead of the whole header bar, you can do that. I totally forget convert to hotspot layer. I think this is it. Yeah, there we go. So now I have a hotspot layer by going to prototyping, convert to hotspot layer, and then I can adjust this to just be this button instead of the whole header bar. So if you have lots of things in the navigation items. So XD is nice-ish. If you want something for free, it's pretty good. It can import sketch files, but sometimes it's just poopy. If you want to export XD files into Sketch, that's even it's a rough goings on. Do you need this link, Alex?
I think I can look it up. Thanks.
Cool. So there's XD. Then there's Figma. So Figma's pretty damn cool. I've been looking to get into it a little bit more. It is browser based, so it eliminates the barriers of like what kind of computer you do have. And their concept of symbols is a little bit different as well. It's a little bit nicer in my opinion, because with Sketch, and we haven't gotten into that too much, but with symbols, like this button, I have this one blue button with blue text, and if I wanted to change the color of this, I couldn't do it via the symbol overrides. I would actually have to create a new button that had a different color, and then name this something else. So let's say basic button, let's say like main button. And then when I come over here to my header, I can then choose between basic button and main button. And the reason why that shows up in the override menu compared to just like a header is because the sizes of these artboards, these symbols, are the exact same thing. So you have to work within the constraints within Sketch. I know they are creating new overrides capabilities along with like text styles, which I haven't gotten into, to make it a little bit more like Figma, sorry. Because with Figma, the idea of a symbol is a bit looser in the sense that you have like a basic button such as this, And then text alignment and color can be overridden a lot easier. So that way you don't have like 20 versions of a button. You have like 1 or 2 and you go from there. Also, since it's web-based, there are lots of cool things that you can do with the Figma API and have that update in like production code and icons and assets. It's really pretty awesome. So it's another one that's I think it's free too. Yeah, so if you want to try it out, Figma is pretty cool and free to a certain point, and fast, like stupid fast. So those are 2. Then there is Envision.
Does it work in IE10?
I don't know about browser compatibility. So Envision is pretty cool. If you haven't known about it, I know I've talked about it a lot, but it's a nice prototyping tool and to help with like design feedback. They do now have, I have to find it, Envision Studio, which is free as well. And it's sort of like Adobe XD with a little bit more oomph, with a lot of concepts borrowed from Sketch. It can import Sketch files and export to Sketch files, but sometimes things get janky. There are cool like prototyping aspects within it. Has a little bit more like fancier animations. So if you notice with the Sketch, like I had like 5 options on how to go from one screen to another. This one you can really get into fine-grained controls of like, okay, I'm going to click this button, this modal will pop up and have this like nice ease in, ease out effect, and you can really get fine-grained with that. So this is free. It's been a while since I played around with it, but I remember using it, and there were like 5 or 6 deal breakers that are like, I can't even like pretend to use this for like a week, just because I couldn't get over some of the things. They probably have fixed some of them, but from all I've seen lately so far, there's still lots of things that they have to do to get to any kind of level compared to like Sketch or Figma. Then there's Affinity Designer. So Affinity is a company that it's like they make different versions of like the Adobe suite. So they have Affinity Designer and Photo. And Designer is like Illustrator and Photo is like Photoshop. And they are really reasonably priced. So yeah, $50. You can't go wrong. And where I'd use like Affinity Designer or Illustrator in that fact is if you want to do more complex illustrations or even like print work, just because it's way more capable of handling those like finely detailed vector editing aspects. Sketch, you can do some of those, like doing this in Sketch is possible, but I would say it would take a bit more work, especially because it really was meant for like UI design and maybe some like app icons, and handing off to like an iOS developer or Android person or a web. While this is, it can do UI design, but like the main focus is, I would say, like illustration. That's what's wheelhouse is. But yeah, if you didn't want to get Creative Cloud, Affinity Designer is pretty damn good, especially for $50. And then Illustrator. Oh, so I know why this pulled up. So I have this one request through Illustrator is to increase the bleed size limits. And I get updates every week through their like user feedback email thing. And the bleed limits are only like 1 inch. You can't create them larger. I don't know why. So if you wanted to do a billboard, which I wanted to do, I had to like create my own bleed limits within the document itself. I don't know. It's just arbitrary, but that's what's happening. So Adobe Illustrator, if you don't know about it, it's essentially like the beginnings, like the powerhouse of vector editing. literally anything you want to do, you could probably do it within Illustrator. It is really good for like illustrating. I would not recommend it at all for UI stuff, or if you're trying to do lots of mock-ups for screens, or yeah, I don't know how you do it well. I know you can do it though. And Kevin,
I have a question, and that's I think where Sketch really falls apart, is doing illustrations and drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to make the pen tool not be as smart as it tries to be, where it can just be line?
Yeah.
I've tried to figure that out and I could not do that.
Yeah. So what Kevin brought up is the fact that the pen tool, or how you like create new vector shapes, not one of like the off-the-shelf like triangle, polygon, square, rectangle, circle, but something that's a little bit more like a person or just any kind of icon. There is the pen tool itself. So to do this, there is the vector option, V. I always just do V, and from here you get this the vector editor. So you can come in here, click, and then wherever you click is where you're drawing. So this is going to be, I don't know what this is going to be. So if you notice when I was doing that, there were like red lines that were popping up as to sort of like guide me as to where to snap to. Since it's trying to find like more pixel perfection rather than like illustration, that's by default what's happening. You can turn off smart guides in the preferences, but if you didn't want to do that and you just want to get rid of those red lines and snapping, if you hold down the command button, you can then put this point wherever and it doesn't snap anywhere. And if you notice over here, the position of that node is like 1091.04 and some other decimal thing. So it's not exactly on a pixel perfect grid when you hold down the command line. And even if you don't hold down command, it tries to snap it to other things. And right now I'm just clicking around just to show off that. And if you want to do something a little bit more complex, I'm going to get rid of all this. So cool, yeah. So let's say if I wanted to do, let's just do this house thing. So I have a house, I could do a triangle. I could have created it from the triangle thing. I'm just going to do this manually. So I'm going to close this up. So now I have these 3 points. And then getting into over here, how you can edit the points themselves. By default, they're going to be straight. If you want to go between the styles, you can go over here and click, and then it changes like the handles. I'm going to go straight and then disconnected. There isn't anything visually right now, but disconnected means I can move one handle independently of the other handle. Mirrored means that they interact with each other. Then asymmetric means they go up and down with each other, but they aren't necessarily going with like the width or the length of the line. And this is how you create more complex shapes and do curves and really create like an illustration of sorts. So you can go over here. You can also on your keyboard go press 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that changes between these 4 modes. So it's pretty nice to do, especially if I'm going to create this house. I'll make this that. I'll make it straight, but I'm going to make the radius of that a little bit like that. And do the same for over here. I'm holding shift so I can like select both of those nodes. A little bit of radius. And I can finish this path, like finish editing, or if I open it, what will happen is I can now like go back in and like add points before it's finished. I don't want to do that though. I'm going to close the path and then finish it. So now I have this, and if I want to go in and actually add more points to it, which I do, I want this like roof of the house to be a little bit curvy. I'm gonna, instead of press edit up here, I usually press the enter key on my keyboard. I'm now in edit mode. Then from here, if you notice when I hover over any part of the line, I have this blue dot. I can then add a point. So I want one right in the middle, and instead of guessing, if you hold down the shift key, it'll actually put it right in the middle of that path. So right, I'm over here, but hold down shift, the node will be placed right in the middle between the two most nearest nodes. So now I got that going on for me. I'm gonna select this guy, holding down the shift key, and then I'm gonna press the number 2 or mirrored, and I'm gonna go with my arrow keys. I'm gonna go up a little bit. It's a little bit slow. So what I'm gonna do is if you hold down shift, you'll go like 10 at a time, which is a nice way to go faster. So now I have like this nice little like curvy roof going on. This border, I'm getting rid of it.
Sean,
Yeah, what's up?
have I ever told you how attractive your curves are?
Hopefully you're talking about my hair. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, I look like sort of a wild man right now. I'm just gonna keep going until it looks stupid.
You know what?
Wait, so Sean, back to the question though, which was
Vector illustration?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like, well, not doing vector, but just like a free form, like like you know, in Illustrator, like you can literally like draw
Yeah.
and like or like in any like if I had a pen or
Yeah. A Wacom tablet.
Yeah, I was gonna say Wacom, but I
Wacom.
don't know if it was
Yeah.
Wacom or Wacom.
I don't know either. I just say Wacom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is like the pencil tool
It
within
doesn't
Sketch.
work.
Oh, it doesn't work. I don't know why it even exists.
I don't even know why.
So yeah, the pencil tool, you can draw stuff.
And it also it makes it near impossible to.
Yeah.
It like kills all your resources.
Yeah, just because like I'm doing all this stuff,
And
it's so janky. I would
then-
not recommend
but
it
then-
at all.
wait.
And then if I edit it,
Yeah. And like,
it creates all these like things, and
try to draw me right now. Like, you'll see
I
it.
cannot draw you. And that's like Kevin Mack. He's got glasses.
It was-
I think it's pretty spot on.
yeah.
Pretty spot on. You got hair. Yeah, especially with the trackpad, this is like dang near possible. I would not recommend it to anybody if you like your life. If this is all you got,
If you like your life.
you can do it, man. But I'd recommend a different tool. This is not the
Yeah.
Sketch is not the
Alright,
tool
so
for
that.
that.
Goes back to the original question.
Yeah.
Man, that looks literally so much like.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So real quick for I guess like editing a vector shape a little bit more, and then we can get into also like color libraries, text box, craft, Maya. So we have this house real quick. I'm gonna create like a peephole at the top. So I'm gonna do a circle,
I think that's more of
TP, or spaceship. Oh yeah, that's what's it's like a weird Space Invaders thing.
Looks like a logo for a pretentious startup.
So this is not everything's aligned. I'm gonna go over here.
Oh my gosh.
There we go. Now it's sort of aligned. I'm not gonna make these as wavy. Ooh, it's now like a
Spaceship
illustration.
rocket.
So I got this. I'm gonna move this back. I don't know what I'm doing. Just trying to do things fast. So I got this. Let's make this background like gray. So if I wanted to poke a hole through this spaceship, and I have this circle. This is where like something like Illustrator is also way better at with paths.
I disagree.
I mean, okay. So there is this circle and then this spaceship, and I have in my toolbar union, subtract, intersect, difference. You might have one that's like combine. Yeah. So this is the combine function, which has those same options. And from here you can say like subtract the top layer from the bottom, and now I have a hole in my ship. I have a hole in my bucket, dear Liza. So that's what's happening there. Then we got the circle in that. So I can do that. I'm gonna put this over here and get weird with it. So I can say union, and that will take whatever's at the top and then combine with whatever's at the bottom. Now I have one shape and a weird like wart growth right there. I can do intersect, which is like the intersection between the two things, and you can do more than two things. So I'm just going to create lots of more circles. Brr. And I say like subtract.
It's like
or difference. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So I now have it is not. So now I have this one layer, but within it I have these the same ovals that I had before. On the right hand side of those,
it's like a side guy.
Yeah, I can then change the mode going on here. So sometimes things get weird and it doesn't do it how you'd expect. It's probably because of how these are layered on top of each other and all of their Boolean operations, as they call it. So you can move these up and down. I can even put the triangle up here.
Wow.
And then, yeah. And then even if I want none, I can say none, and then, yeah. So it can get sort of complex. Coming in here, you can then reorganize it however you like. Within here as well, whatever you name it, let's say Ka, this is my Ka. When you export this out as an SVG, everything in here, all the names of the layers will also go within the SVG. So if you wanted something that can be manipulated through code, naming things is actually important. For this case though, not so much. Cool. So that's how to get a little bit fancier with the vector editing tools.
And just hit on flatten really quick.
Just hit on flatten. Oh, good call. So I have this thing and I have all this complexity going on. I'm like, I'm cool. I'm good with this. If I hit flatten, what will happen? If you notice on the left-hand side, keep your eye on that little arrow, little guy. I hit flatten. Shit. It's sort of flattened. Oh, because I had these at none. So got rid of one of the circles and it combined it into its own path. I'm just gonna change these to something so it actually does something. Cool. So now I'm gonna flatten it, and it creates it as like the most simplest form that it can do. I'm just gonna get rid of these things as well. So now I have this weird ass shape going on just as one path, so then I can edit this itself, which is sometimes nice. You can also before I get to these things, you can create masks. There is right up here in the toolbar mask, or you can right click and say mask, and then everything above it will be masked. So if you notice, everything else outside of the bounds of the Ka, they're being hidden. And you can group these together. So that way, I like to group my mask and whatever I want to mask, because if I had a rectangle going over here, it's cool, it's free, but if once I get rid of this group, if you notice, it's being subjected to the mask. It's not about that life, brah. So I'm gonna make that happen like that. Cool. So with masks as well, there's two styles. There is one that is just a purely like yes, no, which is what's happening here, binary. You can also do an alpha mask, which is based on the alpha channel of what's happening, or the transparency. It doesn't actually matter what color it is, but it matters on the opacity. So again, 0, 100%. I'm gonna unmask this real quick and hit mask again. And it's smart enough, it's usually smart enough to know that if there is like a transparent gradient layer to do the alpha mask, if that doesn't happen, up here in layer and then mask, you could say mask mode is alpha mask. And now I got this like fading spaceship thing going on based on the mask that's underneath it. So cool stuff, brah.
Pro tip with that too, when you do a flatten, do it last.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when your item's like finalized, especially if you're doing it for like a logo or an icon, because if you don't do that, it's very hard to go back, or you keep a copy of your original one, like the unedited flattened version.
Yes.
But if you're doing a production, it should be flattened.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I always keep the unflattened version, just because like once you flatten it, you're just like screwed.
Yeah, this is an actual serious question, but as
and this could just be one of those, like, as you've been going through this, like, what are the biggest differences between Sketch and Illustrator? Like, for me, like, I've only been Illustrator my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, Sketch is good for UI stuff, and like basic iconography. If you want to do like full-blown illustrations, or like you have a illustration, you're like, oh, I want to change all the colors from this one palette to this other one, like lickety split with that. I forget what the color palette chooser switcheroo option is called. It's super easy in Illustrator. In Sketch, there is a find and replace for colors. I always forget how to get to it. I think it's Command Option F. Okay, it's edit, find and replace color. Cool. So from here you can then be like, okay, find all of these colors, and then replace them with these colors, which gets you to a certain extent, but like doing that like 20 times within like a complex illustration, and you just want to change the mood of it, that would be a pain in the butt. Yeah, so find and replace colors is a thing.
So Sean, I want to be conscious of time.
Yeah.
We have about 20 minutes scheduled here.
Color, yep.
I know there were those questions that you said you'd come to at the end. Maybe we hit on those and then we open up for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So before that, just one thing. Can you, well, I'm guessing you can do this, but can you export an entire prototype just to the desktop instead of sharing it through the cloud?
No.
Oh, you can only share it through the cloud?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can share it through the cloud, or you can, with the Sketch file itself, you can download it, and then you then have a local version of it if you had Sketch yourself.
Okay.
So yeah, no, there isn't like a
I see.
local prototyping mode. Like Envision sort of does that, where you can like log in, and no, it's all browser based. The closest thing is with Sketch Mirror, but then that is like if you have like an iPhone or iPad, it's sort of on that device, but it's only happening because you're connected to your computer. Yeah. Cool. So we're gonna get into plugins. Plugins are awesome. Plugins, they're mostly free. If they're not free, they're like, I don't know, maybe $8, $5. But they're definitely worth exploring. I actually do have a list. I'll send this to Alex. It's
Sketch plugins.
Yeah, so it's a huge list. I'll highlight after this. Like, there's like 50 of them. Don't download them all. I don't even use them all. I just keep track of the ones that are awesome. And ones that I will probably use someday maybe, and then also there are ones that I just use like literally all the time every day. And one of them being the which was it? The color libraries. So sketch palettes is the thing. Sketch that searching sketch. Cool. Sketch palettes.
My computer is really running hot here.
Cool.
It's stuck in this view, just so you know.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm trying to go over to your computer view, but
it's fine.
Yeah, it's now at 96 CPU usage. I mean, we have over 4 hours.
Yeah,
going.
we're going cray.
So.
Awesome.
Yeah, Kelly had a quick question about like what your favorite tools are for handing off designs to developers and like communicating CSS styling changes, especially for UI.
Yeah. For that is definitely Envision for just how I work right now. I know there's other things like what is it? Zeppelin, which is just a tool to do exactly that, along with I think Abstract and Cactus. Abstract and Cactus, and I can get the links to Alex, are
for like quality assurance, but in a team of developers.
Yeah.
So one of the things like I recommend for this, and this came up in the last class we did, and remember I was trying to share this, but then we ran into issues when we were at Wiretap for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But an element collage, like separating it out and creating just your core components. So Sketch does the symbols really, really nice, but if you want to build out something that's a little bit more organized for communication between developers and designers, creating an element collage is probably the best way of doing it, where you're identifying all your colors that you have, all the header types, and then you're using that as your artboard to identify those core components. Even though Sketch automatically does that in symbols, symbols aren't really that organized. It's kind of a pain to do it.
Yeah.
And where symbols go really far, they don't align the text options, so you can kind of put them all in one place or another. Do you still have that link that I shared last time?
Nope.
I will. How do you want me to share that with you? Because I have an element collage starter kit that we can maybe tweet out.
Okay.
I mean, it's not really like in a public. It's not in the spot.
Yeah.
Publicly.
Yeah, we could do that afterwards.
Yeah, but.
Yeah. So with Envision, that's how I do it, because it does give you like the CSS values, the spacing. You can add comments, and then even put those comments in even screens like, this is in review, this is checked off, this is not good, this has to be like looked at. There is also oh no, within Sketch itself, let's say if I have this basic button, I can right click it and then copy CSS attributes, and then come on over. I'm just going to open up a text editor, and if you notice it, since oh geez Louise, into my stuff. So since I had a group selected, and that group had the sign up text and this background, it's then saying like this rectangle 2, which is the background, this is the color, border radius, and this is the text, and this is all the CSS that needs it. So this is really nice, because then you can just right click, copy the CSS, go over to wherever you need if you're doing the developments yourself, or if some developer just needs like the new hex value or spacing. It's awesome. And then also you can copy the SVG code if you didn't want to export the SVG itself. So I can do that, and this is what an SVG looks like on the inside. So if you notice, there's the rectangle 2, the name, sign up, the name, naming matters, and all of the styles that it has to go along with that to make that CSS or SVG a thing. So yeah. So back to any more questions? Anything like that? Comments?
Someone's wondering if an element collage is the same thing as branding guidelines.
It's like not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like more style tiles ish, but not really. It's like literally all the
style tiles.
It's like if you were going to build a house, the element collage is more like, this is like all the variations of a window. This is all the variations of a door that you might have in this house. This is like the variations of the floor.
Oh, okay.
So like all the floors feel the same, but they have like different looks and feels. All the windows are windows, but they have different looks and feels.
Yeah.
So an element collage is like all those things in one place. It's like a design system of sorts, but not really.
That's a fair way of saying it.
Yeah. So for plugins, before you do anything with plugins, I recommend you get this one particular plugin first, because it will make you just a lot faster in installing all the rest of the plugins, along with everything else in Sketch itself. So this is the plugin that we want to get right now, Sketch palettes for, you know, loading, saving palettes and things like that. But the one that you need now more than ever is Sketch Runner. So sketchrunner.com. From here, it's free. And if you've ever used Spotlight, like on your computer, to search for files or anything like that, like how you can do tons of stuff in there, Sketch Runner is exactly that, but made for Sketch itself. So if you download it, I don't know what's going to happen for me. I downloaded it. Let's unzip it.
Is this the Dropbox link you just sent?
No.
Oh, sorry.
it is.
No,
Oh, that's that's Kevin.
Yeah.
So that's Sketch Runner, and I just want to make sure, because I don't want to screw up my own stuff. What should happen though is, sorry, I'm going everywhere. With the Sketch plugin downloaded and you unzip it, if you double click it, it will install itself. I'm just gonna do it. Hey, cool. So I'm just gonna replace it. Hopefully it doesn't screw up anything. Hey, it's installed. So now that Sketch Runner is in place, you don't have to do anything like that to install any other Sketch plugin. To bring up Sketch Runner, you can go up here to the plugins menu, Runner, and then say Run. If you notice the keyboard command, it's comma apostrophe. So I hit that all the time. So I'm going to hit Command apostrophe. I'm going to go over here actually first. Command apostrophe. Oh.
Jesus, that's my name.
And it's not showing up. Oh no. Is it because I installed it? What's up?
I was just so worried. Wirecast was not responding, but it was somehow still streaming.
Oh.
Oh, thank God.
So Sketch Runner doesn't want to show up. Oh no. Can I do anything? What? Hold on. Sometimes going into full screen mode fixes things for showing up. Oh, jeez. Crapola. I'm sorry, people. Because what would you do if this actually showed up? Like the window pops up, and then there are 4 tabs. They don't show it here in the demo stuff, but there's like Run, Install, Go To. If you use the tab key and go over to Install, you can then just type in the name of the Sketch plugin you want and then press Enter, and then it'll install it for you. So what you'd want to do is go there, type in Sketch Palettes, and then make sure it's coming from this Andrew Fiorello. I don't know how to say his last name. And then it'll automatically install for you. I'm sorry that I don't know why it's not showing up, other than it might have got screwed up when I unplugged my computer from my monitor, and it's used to having, oh, there we go, sweet. That's probably it. So we got that. I'm gonna hit Tab to go over to install Sketch Palettes. And then this is all, let's do palette. Maybe it needs the hyphen. It does. Cool. So this is the one, Andrew Fiorello. Press Enter. I now have Sketch Palettes installed. So from your plugins, you'll now have 2 plugins. You'll have Runner and Sketch Palette. I have a lot more just because I have them already installed. And from here, I can, if you notice, these are my global palette, and I don't have any document colors. So I'm going to go here, Sketch Palettes, Save Palette. I'm going to save my document presets. No, I'm not. I'm going to save my global presets because that's where my colors are. And I have flat, gradients, and patterns all in there. If you only wanted your flat colors to be saved in here, that's how you just unselect it. So I'm going to hit Save. I'm going to say Funny Bunny. Boom. So got my little funny bunny. And so now I think Sketch Palettes, I'm going to clear my palette. This is scary, but it's all right. I'm going to clear it. Now I should have nothing. Yep, I have a naked color block. Come back up to the plugins, Sketch Palette, load the palette. I'm going to load those funny bunnies. Boom. And I'm going to load it into my global. So this is it's a little bit could be improved, but it's gonna take your, no, what is this? I always get this mixed up because it's gonna take it from the Funny Bunny sketch palette. That's the source. The source is global presets, and it's gonna override my global presets. So if I said document presets, it would have grabbed nothing because I didn't save any, because I didn't have any, and nothing would have showed up. But now I have all my colors back. So that's nice, and then you can then share this like Funny Bunny, the sketch palette file amongst your team, and then people can then load and have the same colors going on. So that is how you do colors. Boop, boop. Cool. Patty, text box. This is awesome. This is it's exactly what you probably have wanted your whole life. If you've ever made buttons for mock-ups, then you have to change the text, and then just was like, oh god, if I have to move the left and right hand sides one more time, I'll tell you what. So you got this little button going on. 5 minutes. What? Okay. Got this button. And cats and dogs. Cool. Got this right in the middle. Holding Alt. Sure, I'll just make this go over one right. So another handy tip, you can adjust the width over here. But if you wanted to, and you know, like, oh, I just got to adjust it 1 pixel or 10 pixels, if you hold down the Command key, it'll actually adjust the width left. If I press the right arrow, it'll adjust it to right, and then left will decrease. If I hold Shift, it increases and decreases. So sometimes it's a lot easier to just keep your hands on the keyboard and adjust that way. Cool. So some ugly numbers, but we'll deal with it. So we got this, group them. From here, we want to install. So instead of hitting tab a couple times, I actually hit Shift tab, which goes the opposite way. Just a handy thing to know. And then Patty by David Williams. Patty is installed, and your life's going to be changed forever. So I have this group. And what's cool with Sketch Runner is instead of going up here to plugins and then finding the thing you got to do and then selecting one of these things, you can run those menu options and literally anything within Sketch from Sketch Runner, the little window. So I brought up Sketch Runner. We're doing like the command apostrophe. Now I'm going to say like Patty. And it brings up all the Patty options, which is pretty cool. So I don't want to enter padding for the selection. I could if I wanted, but like, okay, I create a crappy button and I want it like 30 pixels on the left and right. But I'm just going to go with the flow with what we have right now, and it's going to imply padding from my selection. Hit enter, and if you notice, this rectangle now has like 31 and 77 just automatically there. So what that means is there's 31 pixels above and below it, and then 77 in left and right. I can actually go in here and change those numbers, and it'll update on the artboard itself. So let's say 37. And automatically on the canvas, the rectangle is smaller. It's awesome. And this is like above and below. Let's say if I wanted, and starting from the top clockwise, 31 pixels is at the top of it, and I can make it like 36 on the right, 12 on the bottom, and then 57 on the left. It's a weird ass button, but as you can see, you can change the numbers over there, and it reflects it over in the canvas. But that's also cool is you can then change the text and be like, brah, click this. And then the button itself changes.
It's 13 hours.
Look at that. Amazing. So as you can see with this, and if you make this a symbol, that's where the power comes in. Now I got this group. I can say hit, and it automatically changes the button size based on the text it has itself. And then that's where Patty is just like, And you can do crazy stuff with it. We actually have we use Patty to do crazy tables that automatically adjust the width and the height with this like very enterprisey data, just like rows of columns of logs and crap. But it's all accomplished through Patty, and it's amazing. And I hear my voice. Cool. Then the last thing that we have, unless there's more questions.
No questions.
Yeah.
No
So
question.
we only have 10 people left in here.
Cool.
But I mean, that's not bad.
It's all right. So yeah, the last thing is like Craft. So Craft is a plugin. You can't install it through Runner. You have to go to Envision's site itself.
What about that? Did that 200 question? Did that get answered?
What?
Kristen C.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
that's what she went.
Okay, sorry.
Cool. This is the link. So with the Craft plugin, if you download it, I already have it installed and I don't want to mess this up because it's a little bit finicky. It installs an app itself called Craft Manager, and it runs in your toolbar. And from here, you can choose all the things you want it to do. The biggest thing that most people use it for is syncing and prototyping. So now that I have Craft up and running, I'm just going to make sure within Sketch itself, plugins, that I have Craft turned on. I turned off a lot just for this workshop. So now I have Craft on, and if you notice, I now have this like new toolbar on the right hand side. So from here, this arrow up top, I gotta save my file. Sign into Envision. And I have no idea what my personal account looks like. So, oh, I guess now I do. So I already have a prototype up and running in Envision. If I didn't, I could create a new one. Let's just say test, and it's for the web. And now this is going to be synced to Envision itself. You have to have an Envision account already, but now I can copy this link and I go here. I don't have permission because that's my personal account. Sorry. Cool. So I have this. This is the screen. Oh, I've reached my maximum quota. Crap. In here, I'm just gonna kill this thing. Delete. Oh my god. I thought I deleted it, right?
Gotta pay for it, Sean.
I don't want to pay. This is okay, here we go. View prototype. I got this thing. Oh jeez. I can only have that one.
Oh jeez.
Oh jeez. Okay. So that should definitely be gone. Oh. Okay, sure.
That's what happens when you're cooking in front of lights for
Yeah.
hours.
So this is just for example, this is one that I made before in Sketch through Craft and Vision plugin. And if you notice, there's like the prototyping. Like if I click this, stuff happens. There is the inspect mode. I don't need to learn about it. So if you hover over something, you get all of the details of how to do that, along with like code if you wanted to do Swift. But it's pretty cool. So this is Envision itself, and you can then do the build mode, and this is the fixed footer and header, and then link this to whatever you have. And if I update it through Sketch, hit sync, the screens would update here, and then whoever has the prototype would then have the new hotness. But yeah, that is all she wrote.
So Sean, just to
Yeah,
wrap up here.
just to wrap up.
How can people get a hold of you, or what's the best way?
Yeah, the best way, honestly, probably be through Twitter. SPJPGRD.
Yeah.
If not that, you can do my email, which is either spjpgrd@me.com or me@spjpgrd.com.
Cool.
Both come to me.
Do you expect to do any other workshops or anything specific?
Whatever
Okay,
anyone,
that's putting you on the
yeah,
spot.
whatever anyone really wants. I know that each one of these are a little bit different.
Yeah.
And with this, the people that have signed up, there's like a varying range of like, I've never touched a design tool, to people that have are pretty proficient in like Illustrator and Photoshop. So
Is Wiretap hiring right now? Or
yeah, there is a.
And I get this question a lot for people in Columbus Web Group. So outside of Wiretap, so if you guys are hiring, definitely call that out. But if you know about anyone else that is hiring, what would you recommend resources for people?
Resources for.
Yeah, it's a classic question you and I get a million times.
Yeah. The biggest thing is like getting out and meeting people. I guess knowing someone before you actually have like an interview or you need a job is always great, because then you have a relationship instead of going in cold, meeting whoever you're interviewing with, and then like that's your first impression, rather than like a relationship that you've built over months or years and going into it and like you know each other. It's just now like a formal process of like reviewing your actual work, how you'd fit within their current team or wherever they are envisioning that you become a part of. So that would be like step one. Then step two, I guess it just like depends on your goals. Like, what do you really want to do? Do you want to do design stuff? Cool. It's a huge umbrella. Break that down. Like, are you more on like the front end? Like you want to be a front end developer, implementing designs, and like it's not really only design, it's a lot of like technical stuff. Or are you in the visual design aspect, or are you really into interaction design and prototyping? Or are you a big not opponent either, a big proponent of like accessibility, and you're really you like to be like an accessibility design consultant, and then just go deep into that, and also just like DM message people that you feel like I can learn a lot from this person. Get as close as you want or can to the people that you want to become like, and then just see what they recommend, if they even allow you to like, you know, hang out. That'd be awesome. Just like pick their brain if you can. Offer to do stuff for free for them, maybe just like create like a relationship with people instead of just coming out out the gate with like LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm looking for a UX job. Do you know anything, out of the blue? And like, I met you once. Do you have a portfolio? I'm like, yeah, here's a link. And then it's just like, this stuff's like 3 years old. Like it just leaves like a poor taste in people's mouths. So just treat like finding a job or a career, doing stuff that you love, like just relationships in general, just people, treating people like people. Just because behind like any kind of large corporation, just the people that decide it are, again, just like you and me. They wake up, they go to sleep. Everything in between.
Last kind of ambiguous question here. How did you get involved with Sketch, or why did you start learning Sketch, and what were some of the initial resources?
Yeah. So for Sketch, the reason why I got into it compared to everything else is because I really like the fact that it was made for UI design. Exactly. I always felt like every time I used Illustrator, like I only need like 5 of these things and everything else is getting in my way. Yep. So like it's powerful, it's just not for like what the specific things that I was trying to do with it. Also, it was new, which was it was nice to like have like a fresh of breath air compared to like all the Adobe stuff. Also, there was a guy named Meng Tu, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He wrote a book. It was like an ebook lesson video guide called Design Code, and it was a nice pairing of like, here's Sketch, how to learn it, and also how to code it in iOS stuff. And that's it was like Objective-C right before Swift became a thing. And it was sort of nice bridging that gap between like the actual design and then the implementation of it with real code. And his examples of how to use Sketch for that purpose were amazing. It was like $50 or $100. It was like the best money I've ever spent, because from there I just learned a hell of a lot and got lots of value out of it.
What's the name of it again?
Designcode.io if you're looking for a website. Now he has tons of stuff other than just that one book. He keeps updating it. He now has like an app that is built from the design that he made with the code that he teaches, and then he has like it's really crazy. And he has tons of other plugins, and as you can see, he has like even a React chapter, how to do stuff. It's really awesome. So
cool. I think I probably should do it.
Yeah.
My wiretap, whatever it's called, Wirecast is kind of frozen on this face, so I can't even end the live stream right now.
We're just gonna awkwardly just clean
awkwardly.
things up.
Quick question: are you doing Pelotonia?
Oh yeah,
Or you just
I am doing Pelotonia.
Yeah, so we can also share that link.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So
I have been doing
a
crap job at promoting that.
Yeah, so if you want to just do a quick shout out for that, and then we'll kind of end there.
Yeah, so Pelotonia, this is the first time I've done it. I don't have a bike that's really made for it, but I'm just doing it anyway. It's like a single speed sort of deal. But Pelotonia is like it's a huge bike ride here based in Columbus. And it's to end cancer, so like 100% of the money goes to charity to cancer research, and it's a good time. I've heard. This is the first time I've done it, so I can't really speak to the experience itself, but I know that I have had family members that have dealt with cancer. Some have like passed away because of cancer. And I think at this point in time, it's hard to have gone through life without knowing anyone that's been affected at any point in time. And it's just an excuse to then also train and ride a bike. So yeah, there is that link. I guess Alex will send it out, but no obligation. Don't even feel like you have to donate or anything like that. I was expecting to just pay out of my own pocket. Like I wasn't really promoting it at all. Cool. And that's
cool.
That's all she wrote.
All right, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. I can drink that coffee now.
Yeah, and if people have suggestions for other workshops, hit us up at CBest Web Group. That's it.
Yeah.
So this is gonna awkwardly stay on.
Cool. Unplug it.
Yeah, I'm gonna at least
Unplug
leave
it.
it. Yeah.
Cool, brah.